Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. This is the Teaserking, coming to you with my NCAA bowl predictions, mostly for New Year's Day and a little bit later than that, just the upcoming ones. Hope to make you some money, just get in the holiday spirit. Please go to my site, www.teaserking.com, see my locks, my trends, my history. You can chat with me if you have questions on some bowl games or NFL games. Let's go to some of the games, some of the analysis. You got to treat bowls a little differently. They're like the September games. They're all non-conference. You try to match up the teams as best you can. Look for injuries. Basically, you're trying to get to a very good matchup, a good solid defensive team, a balanced offensive type of team, and you don't really have history on it. You have to look for similar teams. For example, Arkansas is playing Ohio State, so you have to look at how Arkansas played LSU or played a good defensive team in the SEC, which they escape me now. They used to be Florida and Alabama. And Auburn's not a great defensive team, so you kind of maybe look at how they played South Carolina, LSU. And they played them very, very well. So you figure if they can move on Auburn and LSU, the chances are they'll be able to move on Ohio State. That's kind of how you have to look at it. You look for similar teams they're playing. So that would be, let's start with that one, Arkansas, Ohio State. The trends are a little bit more for Arkansas than Ohio State. When you look at the game, forget the points, pick the winner. It's a tough call. Game's pretty even. I don't see Ohio State being dominant here. Okay, so therefore I like taking the points. When I see the game pretty even, I have a good dog, I have a live quarterback. In the Auburn game, Ryan Mallett goes down and the second stringer comes in and still throws for, I think, about 300 yards. So even if he gets hurt in the game, you got a good backup. Those are the games that I really like to look at. So right off the bat, I like the underdog here just based on, I think the game's even. And I think that if they are down, Ryan Mallett can certainly throw it. I think it's different than the Rose Bowl last year, where basically Oregon was a pretty run-oriented team, and their defense really didn't stop Ohio State much. Here I'll look for the similar thing with Ohio State trying to ground the ball and keep the ball away from Ryan Mallett, but I see Arkansas scoring points in this game. So I look at it as being a close game. Either team can win, take the points. Look at Virginia Tech and Stanford. Similar thing. I look at the game pretty even. Virginia Tech's only real loss came to Boise. They swept the ACC, and the James Madison loss was really a fluke because they played Boise Monday night and they played James Madison Saturday. Well, you get a big emotional game like Boise, you can't play 5 days later. I thought that was terrible scheduling. I didn't quite understand the Monday night Saturday type of game. So you can discount the James Madison, and with Boise their only loss, and they played them really close. And I'd have to say Boise's probably beat Stanford. I think Boise can beat anybody. They lost to Nevada, I get that, on the last second field goal that the kicker missed, and then the overtime he missed. But between when offense and defense are on the field, Boise plays with anybody, and they would beat anybody. So therefore, if they only beat Boise, only beat them by a couple of points, I like Virginia Tech getting the points. They're a very, very strong underdog. I know Stanford has Andrew Luck. Virginia Tech beat North Carolina State, who has a very good quarterback. Beat Florida State, who has a very good quarterback. So I look at that situation also. Game's fairly even. Stanford a slight edge. The game's in Miami. Virginia Tech plays in Miami. They play Miami or Florida State every year. Stanford doesn't go to the heat very often. I mean, they're in Northern California. They'll play USC, but it's not the same type of heat. And they got to go to the East Coast. So it's a little different for Stanford. They haven't been to a big bowl game in a long time. Great coach, Jim Harbaugh. Great quarterback, Andrew Luck. No question. Great defense. This should be, again, I don't see Stanford as a clear-cut favorite here because Virginia Tech's such a strong dog. And I look for this game also to be close. Again, take the points. Oklahoma, Connecticut. I absolutely, I don't love Connecticut, but I actually like them very, very much. Too many points here. Oklahoma's laying 17. You get 23 points with Connecticut. They still won the Big East. They still beat West Virginia and Pitt. Oklahoma is a good home team. They're a lousy road team. Yeah, they won as a dog at Oak State, but outside of that, they barely beat Cincinnati. They lost at Texas A&M. They did beat Nebraska without their quarterback for the championship game. But they're not a blowout type team. Landry Jones is a good quarterback, but they're not a blowout team. And Connecticut has a good runner in Jordan Todman, and he'll keep them in the game. Their defense is adequate. They're not a great team. I like the points here. 23 points, and what you're talking about is the Fiesta Bowl, where the underdog covers every year. Every year they've had it, the underdog is covered. It's just one of those bowls that the desert, I don't know, I'm still smarting over the Miami-Penn State game 10 years ago when Miami was in battle fatigues and lost in the desert, and I always noticed it then, every other year, in the desert, the underdog. So I'm taking Connecticut in the 23 based on that, based on their running. They have a fairly good defense. Oklahoma's fairly balanced, but they're not going to put up a 50 here. I like Connecticut. They're not that bad. Let's look at Alabama and Michigan State. Alabama's laying 10. I think that's a high number. I don't think Alabama's that strong defensively like they were last year. They really didn't run the ball, and Michigan State's got an excellent defense. I don't see them running up and down the field on Michigan State. Michigan State's got a well-balanced offense, two good runners, and just looking at Alabama, they had trouble with Auburn, they had trouble with LSU. I just don't, LSU has no quarterback and they couldn't hold them. I just don't think Alabama's defense is that good, and I think Michigan State's is, and I think they have the better defense. The coaches are familiar with each other. Mark D'Antonio coached under Nick Saban, so I just find that they're going to be very common. You get 16 points in Michigan State, and I know they lost to Wisconsin big, or Iowa big. They did beat Wisconsin, and basically in that game they threw a couple of pick sixes when they lost to Iowa. So as long as they keep that under control, I just see that not being an issue here. So basically, I really like Michigan State plus 16. I think they're capable of winning the game. I think Alabama's overrated here. I watched a lot of Michigan State football, and they're very impressive. They'll play good defense, and they're very two-dimensional offense, very balanced. So they'll score on them. Mississippi State and Michigan. I gotta like Mississippi State here. I think their speed will keep Denard Robinson from going crazy. I mean, he really only went crazy against the weaker teams. He had a big run against Notre Dame, who doesn't have a defense. But outside of that, when they got away from Bowling Green and Massachusetts and these small schools, he really did nothing in the Big Ten. He's really a wide receiver. Denard Robinson's not a quarterback. If you get him in a situation where it's a drop back, it's 3rd and 10, and he has to drop back and pass, he can't do it. He throws a lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers. Mississippi State will contain them, and Michigan's defense is absolutely horrible, and I just see Mississippi State being able to run up and down the field on them. I thought of taking this game over, but I don't know that it'll go over. It's a 59. You can cut it to 53. It's probably a decent bet, but I just like Mississippi State here. All the trends favor Mississippi State. Michigan's just not very good on the road. And frankly, I just don't see how they're going to stop Mississippi State. They had some big wins this year, and very competitive with Alabama and LSU. So I just honestly don't see Michigan winning this game as bad as their defense is. And I think Tate Fortier should be the quarterback of Michigan, and you make Denard Robinson either the tailback or a slot receiver. Probably a slot receiver because he can't handle a lot of punishment. And I think they'd be a much better team. They still need a lot of help defensive, and I can't understand why they can't recruit defense. It's Michigan. Florida, Penn State, I don't know. It's such a close game. I will take Florida because it's Urban Meyer's last game for the 2nd year in a row. And I just don't like Penn State's defense. I don't think it's as strong as it usually is. I don't know what Florida team's going to show up, the one that beat Georgia or the one that played South Carolina. But I just think the game's in Florida. I don't like Penn State's quarterback. He's okay. He did nothing in the Big Ten. And they didn't really win any games. They lost to Michigan State. They got pounded by Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio State. I just don't see against a good team that they're going to win on the road. They got pounded by Alabama at Alabama. So I just don't see Penn State winning this game. I'll take Florida minus the 1. In the Rose Bowl, TCU, Wisconsin, I'm having a hard time with this game. TCU's got the better defense. There's no question about it. Wisconsin, I think, has the better offense. But TCU pounded Utah, beat Oregon State, pounded BYU. They're pretty good teams. They didn't beat Ohio State like Wisconsin did, and they didn't beat Iowa like Wisconsin did. I gotta believe this game is pretty even. I don't see TCU killing Wisconsin. They didn't kill Oregon State. They're not as good as they were last year. And even the bowl last year against Boise, I think Boise beat them like 17-16 or 20-17, something like that. It was a close game. Not like they blew them out, and I thought TCU had a much better team last year. I got to take the points in this game. If Wisconsin goes to the favorite, I would take TCU and the points. So if Wisconsin was laying 3, I'd take TCU and 9 all day. But because TCU's favored, I really don't like the road favorites. And I look at all bowl games except for the Hawaii game where Hawaii was at home as road games. And to make TCU a road favorite, Wisconsin's got to be pretty upset about that. And I just think Wisconsin in 9. I really think it's even. I think TCU does have the better defense, but I think Wisconsin's offense. Now keep in mind it was inflated. They beat Michigan, they beat Indiana, and they beat Northwestern without their quarterback. And they put up a lot of numbers. They did not put up a lot of numbers against Iowa, Michigan State, and Ohio State. And that's what you're facing here. So you're kind of facing this as the Iowa game where they're playing a pretty good defense on the road. They can beat them. I don't know if TCU, I think that they're better than Michigan State. I don't think they're better than Ohio State. And because Wisconsin beat them, I do think Wisconsin plus 9 will definitely cover the spread. I would prefer TCU in the points, but it is what it is. I'm kind of surprised TCU's favored in the game, but I like Wisconsin in the 9. LSU, Texas A&M. I think this game's dead even. A&M beat Nebraska and Oklahoma. Enough said there. I would take the points in A&M. If A&M goes to the favorite, I'd take the points with LSU. I would just take the points in this game. I think they're two balanced teams, two teams with very good defenses. This will be a close game. Take the points. And my final pick, the Oregon-Auburn game. I look at this game dead even. Cam Newton is the best player, but Oregon's very good. The game against Stanford is what I'm basing this on. Stanford's outstanding, like I said, and they pounded them, and they beat them by a good 30. There's no way you're going to blow out either team in this game. It should be a very high-scoring game, and I like very much the dog. If you made Oregon favorite, I'd take Auburn in the points, especially after they came back against Alabama. The problem is Auburn did fall deep behind Alabama. They barely beat LSU, and they barely beat South Carolina in the first game. So with that said, I very much like taking the points. You will not shut out Oregon. They don't have the defense Ohio State did in the Rose Bowl last year. Auburn's a good team, but it's really Cam Newton. And Oregon will figure out a way to stop them or slow them down, but I just like the points. I think this game's even. And basically, I think that's how you pick these bowls. You just look at the game. If you see a clear-cut favorite, you play it. Otherwise, the game's even. You take the points. It's been very successful to me. I've been pretty hot. My losers were Houston at home, or Hawaii at home. I thought that was a home field. I didn't see that coming. And basically, the only other loser I had was I took Navy against San Diego State, who was actually at home, who surprised me. Anyway, have a happy new year. My 15 minutes is up. This is Teaserking. Please come to my site, take a look at it. Happy holidays. I hope I make you money here. Thank you very much.